No.
You know what? Let's do it. Might as
Here we go.
well.
Let's go.
All right. Not as handsome as Santi, but we're good.
Nah, come on,
No
man.
one is. Don't feel bad. No one is.
Nobody
No
is.
way, no way.
Nobody
You
is.
guys look amazing, all of you. Is this a brew or a modeling contest?
Jesus.
But yeah, we have a packed brew today. Honestly, we were chatting. We were going through all the topics for today with Joseph, also with Viktor, and everything we have is probably 4 brews. Like each of the titles that we have for today is a brew by itself. So what we're trying to do here is we'll cover as much as we can. You all know how much of a beast C4 is, and if you got into the Sage Editor suite, you already understand how much content is in there. So this is probably going to be a couple parts brew. Probably this is part 1. We may do a part 2. We'll see how much we can get to cover here. But for today, we have 2 guests, 2 great guests. First, we have Viktor from Aphia. Viktor, how are you doing, my friend?
Thank you. I'm fine. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Of course.
Oh,
We
it's a
know that you
pleasure.
run. Yeah, it's our pleasure. And we know that you run most of the analytics for Aphia, always maintaining the biggest data sets that are available for the community. So, and I also know that you've been taking the deep dive in the Aphia meetings on the Sage Editor suite, right?
Yes, we did. Yeah. And we're working hard, of course, to get our dashboards back and running with our own version of it. Yeah.
Nice. Yes. So yeah, man, happy to have you. I know you're going to provide a lot of insights. It's going to be a casual conversation, so feel free to interrupt at any time, Viktor. We also have some questions for you as well, but feel free to interrupt anytime. And we have our second guest as well, Joseph Floyd from the Floyd Brothers, Floyd Industries. How are you doing,
That's
Joseph?
right. I'm doing great. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Nice.
Our pleasure, friend.
And Joseph, you kind of recently joined the team and been heads down working on C4 stuff, right?
Yeah. I work, very closely with Danny and Chip and Brad, those legends over there. And yeah, mostly on C4 so far. Like we all know, it's a beast. It's been so much fun working with it and getting this all together. And honestly, the last town hall, being able to share the tools, I mean, how cool. And really excited for this next round of feedback and being able to just make it better, right? So yeah, love it.
Yes, absolutely. We love and appreciate your efforts there, Joseph, and everybody loved your town hall presentation. And now it's the time. People had some time to digest everything that was in there, so we'll have to take the deep dive, right, Jose?
Absolutely, friend. Can't wait to see those 2 sharing their knowledge about C4. Super excited for today.
Yes, it's a lot of content, so brace yourselves.
Lots of content.
Get your notebook ready, guys. Pen and paper ready because
I got my water ready.
oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. I just had a cup of coffee, so I am more than ready for this. But as always, we'll start with some noteworthy news that happened during this week and the last week. But one that just happened right now, a couple minutes before the brew, is that you should have in your inventories play.stratos.com your ink drops. So if you've been playing UE5, if you've been leveling up, you should have received some ink after each of the matches. Maybe you're like Jose, you receive only 1 ink per match, only 1 kill per match. But maybe you receive a bit more. So you can now go claim that on play.stratos.com/inventory and get that ink. There's also already buy orders for it, but you will be able to deposit that ink into the LP pools, and each of the ink is worth 100,000 LP points, right, Jose? Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
I believe it's around that number. So, yeah, guys, you can go claim right now. And just to clarify, this is unrelated to sync. Ink and Sync are unrelated. I mean, they are related. They are under Star Atlas, and Ink will be tradable on Sync at some point. But it has nothing to do with the Sync airdrop. This is just the UE5 research that we have. So look at Brujo, man.
Retired. He's retiring.
He's buying a home with that 2,400 Ink. But man, Brujo has been locked in. I see you, Brujo, on the very top of the leaderboards there. Last time I checked, you were top 1 in matches played. So respect, Brujo. And not only that, he's also racing. So respect to the Chimera fellas out there. Not only Brujo. But yeah.
Legends.
If you join a deathmatch game and you see some Qs in there before the names, some Chimera fellas, you know you're going to have a hard time. For sure. For sure.
Yeah, they're killing it.
Yes, you have to be on your A game to play against these guys. So yeah. Other noteworthy news is that, and good news is that we are not affected by the NPM hack that happened. I believe it was yesterday. The whole crypto ecosystem, not only crypto, but a bunch of people. I think that repo had like 1 billion downloads or something like that. So it was a big hack. From what I read, the hacker only managed to extract like $400 in crypto. I don't know if those were memes or what, but luckily we were not affected. So he will be better off playing
Yeah.
UE5 and getting some ink.
Exactly. Brujo outperformed him.
Brujo did better without having to hack anything. So
Yes,
yeah.
congratulations, Brujo.
Yeah. That's also good. And then we want to highlight a community member, speaking of UE5 that we touched before. So one of our very best players in the community, Kill This Guy, has created a tutorial for us noobs on how to be better at playing the deathmatch game modes. So I just linked in the chat the YouTube link where you can understand a bit more about movements, things that good players do every single game that will definitely help you improve your skills. So I saw Chipto in the chat saying that he even discovered some mechanics from our own game, looking at what Kill This Guy was doing with the movement and all that. So Dolly's in the chat for Kill This Guy, newest StarAtlas content creator. My friend, keep crushing it before we nerf you.
That's
So,
my
yeah.
guide. I have to watch it. Noob guide sounds perfect for me.
Sanchi, do you believe I got him 1v1? I killed him. It was a peak moment of my V5 career. I have it on video. Highlight.
Really? You have it on
Yeah.
video? No
Yeah,
way.
it was greatest moment of my life.
You need to post that. You need
Yeah.
to post that.
I
Make
waited for him to create this guide, so now I can, dunk on him. It's going to be awesome.
Nice. That's perfect timing, actually.
Yeah,
Perfect timing.
absolutely.
So yeah. And one last thing regarding Holosim, Jose, something crazy
Yeah.
happened this week. Yesterday, I
Something
think.
crazy. Santi, the thing is that people sometimes ignores that Galley Expense is a very dangerous place. Sometimes you are just there, minding your own business, farming your STUs, and suddenly Jarvik fleets start raiding your faction. It is with utmost sadness that I saw yesterday over 160 fleets being destroyed by the fury of the Jarvik raiders. This is a painful lesson for everyone involved that random things can happen in Gallia Expanse. I saw that they were mostly focused on players scanning close to the safe zone borders in their factions. Players tried to attack, killed some of them, lost other fleets, but Holocene is experimenting with many interesting things. One of the future interactions on the future expansions that we want to add to the game is the participation of NPC fleets. and we collected some very cool data yesterday. We had fun. We saw the chaos of community running for their lives. It was a good night overall. I think people appreciated the sheer destruction of their fleets. No one was
Mhm.
mad in the chat today, you know?
Yeah, they all just woke up with all their fleets destroyed and felt happy about it, right?
Yes.
Perfect start in the day.
It was so funny. Yeah, awesome stuff.
That was evil laugh, Jose, right there. Let me point that out. That was pure evil in your laugh.
It's part of the personal growth for the community, dealing with those feelings, etc. Part of the game.
Yeah, life sometimes throws punches at you. Like
Yeah.
Jose with a couple of your big fleets destroying all your scanning operations.
The game, it's all about balance, Santi, because when I killed those guys, the game was suddenly running a lot better for everyone. So someone had to make the sacrifice.
It's in favor of new players.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think with that we covered mostly everything noteworthy news wise. So we can start switching to the main topic. As you guys know, and we covered at the beginning, we're going to be talking about C4, doing some theory crafting about it, and basically taking a bit of a deeper dive into what the Sage Editor suite is. And we have two very knowledgeable guys here. Joseph, literally working on it daily. And we have Victor, who has been taking the deep dives in AFIA. So there's going to be a lot of information here. But before we get really deep on it, I want to get some high-level thoughts, mainly from you, Victor, that you've been looking at the Sage Editor suite, and you can start drawing some conclusions, right, from what you see in there and what we can expect for C4. But the first question will be, what did you find the most interesting from what you saw in that Sage Editor suite?
Yeah, I think probably the most interesting part is that it's public to all of us. I would say that in the first place, because I think that's not, yeah, the usual case. So that's really what I like, that we see the progress, how this is developing until launch. And when it comes to the tools, there's there's so much in it. At first, I would say probably the ship configurator and also the map, because the map editor is great with all the information in there, and the ship configurator, and then also the combat simulator. That's a great pair of tools. Yeah, but I'm also very interested in claim stakes, of course, and all that stuff. So it's really hard to pick a favorite here.
Yeah, imagine how hard it will be in game, right? To pick whatever you want to
Yeah,
do.
of course, of course.
Absolutely. And I mean, C4 changes everything that we know about how economy works on Sage, right? In many different levels, from the complexity of the recipes, from the sheer amount of resources that we can find in the map, to mining ships taking a step back and claim staking coming to life. Of all those things, Victor, what do you feel like is going to be the biggest change to the supply chains, to the economy of Sage with C4, man? What are you expecting?
It's exactly what you said. So the shift for the economy from mining with the fighter ships to the economy with the claim stakes, that will be a massive change, and it will be very interesting how this will play out, because as we saw on the dashboards, we have quite a high VWAP value in ships, but in claim stakes, it's much lower. Of course, then we construct all the buildings actually to get the mining going. But still, so it will be very interesting to see how the economy will handle that, how the team will use the levers that they have, so that it's probably the amount that the mining rate will go down for the fighter ships will be a process step by step, and decrease it so that the economy will not crash. Because first we have to adapt to the new situation. So that is really an interesting part, because we were waiting for claim stakes for quite some time, but actually, I think if I remember correctly, they have been on the roadmap at a later stage. Actually, when C4 was announced, we were a little bit surprised that claim stakes were already part of it. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And the second one, maybe if I would add another one, is the ship configs, because I think that it will be the first time that we really shift to a player-driven economy. Right now, we're earning LPs and we're producing the faction infrastructure contracts to get Atlas, but all of this is coming from incentives. And when we're shifting to C4, a huge part, I think, and what we see from the ship configurator will be the ship configs. So they really make a difference in your performance when it comes to combat, but even if it comes to mining, cargo, and all those things. And that will be a player-driven economy. So I'm really excited to see that one developing, because that will be our long-term sustainable option in the end, right?
Absolutely, friend. Yeah, you are 100% right. Like, if you played with a little bit with the editor, you can see how strong the components, the tiers, and everything plays in your fleet composition. Not only
Yeah.
on the attack side, the combat, but in the economy, in mining, etc. And since for the first time we'll have actual components burning, we'll have items that you can only use a few times. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on during this brew. I mean, a lot will change. A lot will change, and it's such a massive change that we could be here for hours. So I will, I'll get us started right away, Santi, because otherwise
Let's do
this
it,
brew
Jose.
lasts 4 hours. Yeah. Which 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 piece of C4 should we tackle first, Santi?
Oh man, there's so much. I think we can probably start a little bit with the first thing you get hit when you get in the Sage Editor suite, which is the map, right? At least that's the main thing that I go to whenever I open it. It's the map, the regions. So many new things, so many different regions. It's going to completely change the supply chain gameplay. So I think, Jose, we can get started with that. What do you think?
Absolutely. And maybe Joseph can share some insights to us. Like, Joseph, let's say you are that new guy coming to Star Atlas and you are choosing where you want to go, like what you want to do, what resources you want to focus on. What would you tell them? Like, give us some tips here on how to get started there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to soak in, right? They are, as far as what separates out the regions, we are introducing some faction specific resources there, which, are going to be ultimately leading into what makes each faction unique in their specialties, right? So that's kind of the big separator there. Right now we do have around 8 resources per faction. With this, we did make a internal decision to cut back just slightly on that. There's still going to be 8, but 3 of them per faction are going to be used for more of the cosmetic side of things. So ran some numbers, and it was a little bit, affecting a little bit too much, right? We want to still be able to lean into what makes each faction unique without kind of relying too much on these faction interdependencies, right? So, yeah, but they're gonna have their streamlined kind of resources there. But one thing that I think is really unique with the way that C4 is being built is that when we are creating these recipes, right, and when you do have that end goal, kind of what you're starting out with is going to be essential throughout. We have these and each one of the final recipes have these recipe slots, we'll call them, and the first slot in a 3x photon missile, that same slot and that same requirement is going to be the same at that Titan level, right? So that means that that initial copper ore extractor or silicon crystal extractor that you're obtaining from your first tier one claim stake, right? That you decide to get on and start extracting, it's going to be required throughout till endgame. So I think it's one
That's
of those things that a little bit comfort in your decision, right? So it's not necessarily you have this really segmented kind of opportunity of I'm going to be good until this point that I'm going to have to destroy and redesign and kind of keep iterating on it. It's really it just increasing your efficiency overall, but I don't think there really is sort of a wrong choice. Um, I do have a graphic as well that I think maybe we can showcase this now. And
absolutely.
this is, yeah, so this was pulled here. So I'll do this. This was pulled to kind of show the top 10 resources in terms of impact, right? We have this percentage of impact, and that is a dependency on this raw resource as you get down to these final components that you're crafting. And if we look at some of these, 90%, right? This essentially means that 90% of the final components, right, will require this copper ore. Obviously, everything that you see here is subject to change, but it kind of does, speak to like I'm a new player starting out. I have my copper ore extractor. You're very important, right, in terms of the economy, and what your overall effect is. So, and these top 10 resources, right? 21,000 different components that leads to, right? These are obviously, some of the same, but you can kind of see some of these numbers here, and it's pretty staggering. 8 of the top 10 resources are tier 1 resources, right? So these are tier 1 claim stakes, probably some of the first, extractors and claim stake buildings that you're going to be creating. So it's exciting to see this. I thought this was particularly interesting, as we build this out and kind of what we were shooting for overall with just importance that you feel and kind of you're not really making a wrong decision in any one of these that you're going with. Obviously, they have their different categories that they're going to be leading into, and each of these categories have their different damage types, different ship component types, and all of that, and it kind of leads into what Victor was saying with the importance of ship configs. It's huge, right? And because of that importance, right, and you needing to have essentially the full ship config to be able to outfit that, I think that what we're ultimately wanting to work towards is connecting the claim stakes, crafting habs, and crafting recipe tool with the actual live ship configs as well. So had some internal talks about this and being able to kind of have that visual right throughout, saying, okay, I really like this for my fleet. I think these are the ship configs that I want to do. Being able to then kind of utilize that information and have this visual of your path to get there. Which claim stake should I use? What systems are going to be the most optimal for me? Not all systems have all 8 different planet types in them, so it does largely depend on where you decide to kind of place your claim stakes. So all of these factors really, it's so large that we definitely want to fill in some of these gaps to make it a little bit easier along the way and give a little bit more insights into not only copper ore extractor, but what config that building is going to lead you into, right? So,
I
yeah.
no, I really like this approach, like having a tool that allows players to quickly identify their goal. Like, for example, I want to build those kind of components. Where do I need to move to the map to be able to farm those components? What kind of claim stake do I need to be able to extract those resources? If we can direct them to specific goals like that, I feel this will make everyone's life much easier overall,
Right.
like a
And
goal-driven tools. I really like this concept.
yeah, absolutely. And, also just kind of making it a little bit easier because at the end of the day, if that fleet goes, so do those components and what you kind of made. So we want to make that a little bit more simple on and streamlined in that process of being able to now set up that big production chain, that big, loop that you've taken the time to kind of map out and know that even if you were to lose your fleet in combat, you can quickly get back and make those configs again. So
That's
And also
actually
maybe the idea, because you say you asked what a new player is doing when he's coming to the game and sees the huge map, is maybe right now in Starbased we have 17 star bases in each faction. And in C4 we have some regions that have 21 systems. So if a system is similar to a starbase, then a region is what we are playing right now. So maybe for some of the new players, it will be quite interesting to just maybe stay in one or a couple of regions, because they find everything they need there, and some players will focus on just a small number of regions, and even maybe some guilds will focus on a couple of regions inside their faction and protect the south, and others protect the north or something. Yeah. And I also really liked what I think Joseph or Danny were mentioning in the town hall, that the travel inside the system is cost free, so there's no fuel costs. So the more you can do inside your main system, that's even the better, because you don't spend any fuel.
yeah, exactly. And we are factoring that in largely to even the building recipes, right? Being able to get those building recipes created and within a system, how difficult is that to kind of achieve for a new player, right? They buy that claim stake. That claim stake's going to come with your first central hub. And that's going to automatically start earning you some resources. And what does that kind of lead into? And how difficult is it to then get those next buildings to max out your claim stake slots and really get this going, right? Like what is that process looking like? And so much of my time is focused on just that initial phase and what's available to the player at the time, how these systems differ from each other, and eventually do want to tie in what the claim stakes show on the editor tools and being able to actually pull directly from the systems. So right now, and this is just a FYI, the claim stakes are kind of every unique type of claim stake is displayed, but it does not factor in kind of what's in your system, right? So that's another thing. And it's a big aspect of your decision process, right? And deciding where to go, what plans do I need, and how is this going to look like for me to really get all of the different raw resources and get my kind of focused production chain that's self-sustaining as well, up and running.
And Joseph,
So
one question on the resources and the faction specific resources in particular, like for the first time with C4 we'll have faction specific resources, right? Resources that you can only find in one of the factions. And I'm just personally curious on what will be the use case for those, right? You said that some of them will be mainly cosmetic, or will it, for example, could it happen that a resource that is only produced in mod, then Onis need to craft something on their end? Like something like that could be quite an interesting mechanic, but I don't know if we're even thinking about that right now.
Yeah, and then realistically, when we were creating those faction specific resources, it was kind of more cosmetic in mind. And after seeing some of the numbers on what this meant for faction specific crafts as well, it ended up being a bit too large. So yeah, that is why we restricted it purely cosmetic. But there is still 5 still out there for each faction. And yeah, this likely will mean, as far as specific crafts that's going to be available, it likely would mean that if you wanted to stay just within, your faction and not take anything over, right? Not progress in combat and start taking over other resources to open those up, then certain ship configs, might just not be able to be crafted, right? So unless obviously outside trading and marketplace stuff. So yeah, it could be a big thing to consider. Some of those final numbers and those recipes I should be getting in by the end of this week. It's actively, being modified in terms of those faction specific resources right now and what they lead to. But yeah, it's a lot to consider as well because, if this is going to lead into some damage types, maybe that counter for those damage types just isn't available to a certain faction. Maybe that's some meta, right, on Oni versus Ooster, and then being able to leverage some of those damage types that they don't have a counter for, and you kind of know that in the back of your mind. So it's also, what advantages does my faction have in combat, and really leaning into that.
That's also super interesting as well. And I think we can talk a little bit about. We can transition a bit more to crafting and resources. We're kind of talking about that already, but maybe we can talk a little bit about the mineable resources. I know there was a question out there in the community, like, will I still be able to mine with my miner ships, or will it all happen on claim stakes? Like, how is that going to work?
Yeah, so on that, all of the resources that are available within a system, are kind of get picked up by the asteroid belts, right? And so that does mean that everything that is available on claim stakes will be available through the mining ships as well. So while this is going to be available, it's going to be lower richness levels, right? So you're not going to be as efficient, of course, but it is available through that. So yeah, it's a different path towards getting, potentially your loop set up, right? And getting those resources that may be, hard to find for you.
And that's also what Victor was mentioning. Victor, I think you were talking about that at the beginning, where just setting up mining operations with fighters is no longer going to be great from an operational standpoint,
Viable.
right?
Yeah, probably. We were told so, and I think it's a good way to go that direction, of course. So yeah, but I think also probably maybe Joseph, if I might throw in a question on the miners, the Armstrong miners, but actually it's not the purpose probably for the miner ships to just mine the resources that are also available on the planets via the claim stakes. The purpose is really to go out there and get the rare stuff and move back into your safer territory and things like that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
That's going to be quite a strategy, right? So because you will need to protect those miner ships as well. So whenever you go and transport the resources back. So yeah, that's actually
Yeah,
something
and
very interesting. Like you have your claim stakes for the basic supply chain operations, but then whenever you need rare resources, or maybe if you want to sell them on the marketplace, you use those mining ships to go gather that and come back, right? So
yeah, and richness value does sort of increase the farther you go with the danger, right? So risk versus reward there. And one thing I did want to mention, just as far as I know that we were talking about faction specific resources, but I think it's worth mentioning that that ink, is going to be part of those recipes, right? So ink being a factor as well, right? So um, not all of the recipes that are going to be utilizing ink in them have been added in yet, but that should be in by the end of the week as well. And it's pretty interesting too. It's you taking the time to gather this, unique resource through the only method available, and then potentially again getting another advantage in combat. So yeah,
Wow. That's alpha
really
right there. I like it.
Mhm. Joseph Neo is talking about the drones in the chat right now. He saw the drones recipes. They saw they are kind of complex. Is there anything you can share with us about drones in C4 right now? If not, that's okay. You don't need to tell us anything. But they have some big requirements and recipes, right?
Yes, they do. And as far like everything that I can say about them is that drones are a bit OP. But as far as the major details behind them, I can't share too much on that end. But this is just coming from, words from Danny and ultimately why the recipes were made the way they were. So yeah, really
Interesting.
cool. Really
Yeah,
cool. Um,
I saw some of those drones recipes have over 200 steps to build them. So yeah, it's hopefully it's going to be something good, right? To get something so
yeah,
complex to craft.
yeah. Yeah, and realistically, I do want to talk about another thing that I'm adding in there. I know that some of these complexity and these steps amounts, might be a little bit off-putting, to players as well to see, okay, like how is this even obtainable, right? And um, I think it really comes from not just looking at all five steps altogether, but again, breaking down each ingredient individually, right? And getting that parallel kind of production happening, right? I think with drones, there's five ingredients each, so you break that down, get an efficient workflow to kind of get all of those individually, and it becomes more obtainable at that point. So uh, I am creating another view on the recipes tool specifically to help out with that, right? And be able to get some more insight. Um, Looking at, potentially running reports, right, on, what ingredients are. I know that we can look up, what has this ingredient one at a time, but say you wanted to look at 10 different things at a time, or like I said, bringing over that ship config and saying, look, or even a drone, if one of the ship configs has that drone in it, then adding that into your game plan and really this may lead into also being able to get recommended claim stakes again and even getting into designs that you could export and import very easily. So yeah, there's a lot there that I realize the complexity behind it and the main purpose of these tools is to make it more accessible and realize that there are ways to really lay out my game plan and just make it more achievable for the normal player. So
Santi, another thing that I wanted to discuss here with Joseph and Victor is the importance of crafting habitats. And I
mhm.
really wanted to hear, Joseph, like your impressions on how important they will be, especially linked with our claim stakes output. Like how let's say, the division of labor work between those two infrastructure assets in the supply chain of a player.
Yeah, so I think the big thing, if you were to only remember one thing out of this entire kind of theory crafting session that we're having on this brew, is that claim stakes do have a limit into how far you can go into that production chain, right? Anything more than 2 production steps that it takes to build, you will not be able to have a claim stake building for. So if anything, requires anything past copper wire, right, then you're not be able to have a building that automates that process for you. So that is where, you have this limit, and then after that it's all crafting apps, right? And you need to factor in travel at that point, how much storage that you're working with, and then also it takes over right there. So I know that there are some, as far as our process of getting to those final ship config components, particularly, we go from raw material to what we call components, and then after that it's ingredients. Ingredients are the main ones that are used in final components. I will say that there's around 150 ingredients right now. 8 of them are craftable on a claim stake, right? So,
Jesus.
yeah, so it shows you just how deep you're able to get. So you cannot automate the process of crafting any final component that's going to be used in a ship config. So it really emphasizes the importance of that. And, just knowing that some of those ingredients that are, maybe tapping into those really early and getting that configured, right, can lead you into, some of these final components that are going to be opening up your ship configs. I think one of them is a
This
countermeasure for Flare, but yeah, something to look into.
this is super interesting. And when I think about this, I'm sure Victor is already also theory crafting about this. Like the guys need to take the resources from the planet and send them to the star base in order to get those ingredients to the final stage that they need to become components and etc. They will need to come back to the planet in some capacity to create better claim stakes, to create better extractors and things like that. And this is a lot of freighting between, even in the same region. So combat here profits a lot, right? Because all that cargo moving, all that movement of resources, components happening in the region, people need to watch out for for pirates and raiders in C4, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of valuable loot there that's constantly getting
Absolutely.
freighted. Yeah.
Yeah, but I also think you say that the ship configs will really help because we already can see the bonuses that we're getting. For example, if you're upgrading your cargo module, you get, I think, a 25% boost in your cargo capacity. So that's really something. So yeah, so if you're up to that and will upgrade your freighters there, that will help a lot.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
that's going to be one of those final components, like the cargo module, that's going to be very sought after, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to be huge.
Mm-hmm.
And
25% in
also
cargo is a
maybe
lot.
subwarp speed or warp speed and all those things. Yeah, warp drive and subwarp engine. Yeah, is also very interesting.
Mm. And there's a question in the chat from Earther saying, how exactly do we grow our crafting have capacity tier and location?
Yeah, so that's going to be based off of Starbase level as well. So the Starbase level, is going to unlock those different hab tiers that you're able to craft. And then those plots, it's getting that plot. They kind of work very similar with claim stakes and being able to max that out. Having, larger size crafting stations, increasing your crafting speed as well. And then there's a storage factor in there also. But a lot of it and what's available to you is based off Starbase level.
Cool, cool. What else do we have to cover, Jose? I know we have a lot more.
Neil asked also a very interesting question about the resources that you'll be able to extract in a planet using your claim stake. I'm trying to find here. He asked, will claim stakes really mine all the resources available in a planet, like what's happening in the Sage editor right now? Or they will be limited in some capacity? Like, you can potentially mine all resources in your planet with a claim stake, or you need to have like a tier 5 and only choose a few resources for each one of the claim stakes. Is there any limitations there, Joseph?
Yes, that's correct. It is limited by the tier of the claim stake as well, right? So, depending on the tier of your claim stake, even though you're on the correct planet, right, and that resource may be available on that planet, it also factors into the tier of claim stake that you did purchase, right? So, I know that council rank is also going to play a big factor into this also on ultimately what resources and what buildings are available to you based on your progression within the game. So council rank is going to be a factor there as well on what opens up to you and what you can extract.
Man, this is super interesting. Imagine this, like you level up in crystals, and then only then you get access to mining some of the most rare crystals because you have the necessary XP to be able to extract them. Besides the infrastructure, you also need the knowledge. This is actually something super interesting for us to imagine here. Super cool.
Yeah. Victor,
Yeah,
is
but
Athia
also
going to offer
if
a course on C4? A master's degree?
say again.
Is Athia going to offer like a master's
If
degree on C4?
um, I have to think about it. I think. I mean, we will do for sure educational stuff and bring the knowledge that we might have to the community, because that's always something that we like. But I think when C4 and combat is coming, there will also be some things that we keep internal.
Makes sense. Makes
Yeah.
sense. You were going to add something to the previous topic before I interrupted you, Victor, I think.
No, I just wanted to say that. Wait a minute. What was in regards to the if some people are fearing that the limitations to have higher claim stakes to get the resources might be too strict. From what I saw is depending on the planet type, you usually get like 60 to 80% of the available resources with a tier 1 claim stakes. So it's really just the much more rarer resources that you're where you need maybe then the tier 5. Sometimes the tier 5 just adds one additional resource in comparison to the tier 4, just to address that if people might wonder.
Yeah, and again, when you look at what's available to you, right? When you get that first tier 1 claim stake, um, as far as how far those resources are able to get you, again, going back to the way that the recipes are configured, right? The smallest, the 3x, missiles or the 2x ship components, 2XS, sorry, ship components are going to be using those tier 1, tier 2 resources, right? We aren't going to be gating these components behind these higher tier resources. A lot of these ship configs, especially for the first ones, are obtainable. There will be no gates to getting those first ship components out. And then as you go up in size of your ship is when those next tier resources do come into play. So the tier factor there has been very closely paid attention to throughout the whole process. So we don't want any very large, gates where you start and you're like, I have nothing to build. Why am I doing what I'm doing? So absolutely, these are very obtainable no matter where you are in your stage and what you have available to you. You have a path towards getting to that config. or one of the configs, right? So,
Joseph, I have a question about the capacity of crafting hubs. We know that planets will have slots for claim stakes, especially for some tiers of claim stakes. I'm not sure if we have made a decision on this yet. If not, that's completely fine. But do you know if the star bases will also have a limit on how many hubs will be available in each star base? And if that will be also constrained by the tiers of the hubs?
I'm not 100% sure on the limiting of that. I believe that it does work pretty much exactly the same as claim stakes. So I want to say that, as your star base level goes up, then the slots do kind of increase there, and then there's some cap from my knowledge, but I may be wrong in that. So don't quote me on that.
No, that's
Mhm.
fine. Santi, do you want to read Neo's question?
I can read it. Yeah. There's a question from Neo Armstrong in the chat. Neo Armstrong is also he has been taking the deep dive. I think he already
He
hosted.
Santi, bro, Neo, I'll dox you here right now, Neo. He sends me WhatsApp messages Sunday, 8 a.m., saying that he discovered the obscure secret of C4 on the Sage editor. That's Neo. He's that
Yes.
obsessed.
And he already has hosted, I believe, like 4 episodes deep diving into the editor suite already. So, yeah, he has a question. He calls this the big elephant in the room. The whale limiter called fleet concurrency, and fleet size. What can you reveal about this and calm or drive our beloved community whales crazy? It's a curveball. I don't know if
And
we
that's
can
fine
reveal
if you
anything.
can't talk about that right now, Joseph. I believe most of
Yeah,
those numbers are still under consideration, right?
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, everything that is in the state editor suite, is going to be modified at some point, right? The living world in there. But yeah, I don't think I would be the proper person to answer that. So, yeah,
We ask Danny.
I differ. Yeah.
We'll get that
Yeah.
in here. He will
Yeah, next one he needs to come.
Yeah,
he will feel the wrath of Neil Armstrong's questions.
that's right.
Odysseus is asking a question. Are ships configs permanent or they degrade and require replacement over time?
Yeah, so on the ship configs, they do get wiped out in combat. But as far as, any degrading aspect to them, um, there are some consumables to factor in, right, during combat. Um, those consumables being, the weapons are using ammo, right? Countermeasures use charges. The missile bay uses the missiles. Crew uses food, and then the ship obviously uses fuel. So there's those type of consumables that may need to be sort of restocked, right? As you go through these different rounds and combat. But other than that, yeah, the other components are will last until you're defeated.
Yeah, it would be fun if they expired or needed to be repaired over time, but people don't let me have my ways in this game. They say I'm too evil. It is what it is.
Chris will love it, I'm sure.
I Chris would agree with me, yes.
Uh, they were also asking about if they will be able to loot components. I think Jose replied in the chat, but it's going to be lootable, right? Like half of it goes, half no, part of it is burned, part of it you can loot, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Uh, Joseph, is there anything you can tell us about scanning? I know this is not necessarily from the Sage Editors but scanning is going to be reworked in C4, right? I think it's more of a Danny question, but if you want to share
Yeah,
something.
yeah. Yeah, I would probably defer to Danny on that as well. It is a big factor, for sure, but yeah, I think you'd probably be the best person to ask on that.
Yeah, we need to have Danny here, Santi.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He,
Joseph,
he's holding
you'll
the
have to tell
alpha.
him.
Yeah, you tell him, Joseph, you are
I'll
his
break the
brother.
news. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Anything else, Victor? Anything else from your end? Like any questions? Anything you want to bring up before we reach the hour here?
I think not right now. Maybe let me think about it, but nothing that comes to my mind right now. Oh, maybe one question, Joseph. In the map editor, is it actually possible to save a configuration? Because I really would like to do that. I saw there
Yeah.
are save possibilities, but it's just saving the JSON, right? Or
Yes, it is save the JSON, and then you can re-import that if you wanted to play around with that. So,
okay. So you're
mhm.
able, for example, if you're interested in a certain recipe and want to see the distribution of all the resources needed for that recipe, then you could save like a file for that recipe where the resources are located.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And one update
Perfect.
will be coming with that too. So I'll have a new version of the map coming out very shortly. And then that will have the proper resource distribution there. So yeah. And I can let you know when that's rolled out.
Nice.
Great.
Yeah, definitely integrating those tools though. Looking forward to the next update with being able to kind of tie the two together. I'm seeing more and more need on that. So
Mhm. And Joseph, I believe we wanted to ask the committee as well. For those who use the Sage Editor suite, if you have any feedback, any improvements that you would like to see, any suggestions overall, before we close here, Joseph is the guy for you guys if you want to see any improvements or anything from the Sage Editor suite. Tell us in the chat.
absolutely. Yeah, any big gaps, right? Like and kind of what we were talking about today, always looking to improve that and bring clarity to anything that just feels a little bit too confusing, right? Any more integrations that we wanted to look at potentially doing, right? These are they all kind of integrated tools to a certain extent, but if you wanted to see even, another level of integration, more live data, in separate tools, we can definitely look at getting that in. So yeah, definitely looking for more feedback and ways to improve the tools.
Nice. So far, there's only one question about the map. They're asking if there are plans to expand it in the future.
I can
I
take
think it's
Don't.
this
pretty
one.
big.
Yeah.
It's already pretty big, but
Yeah.
we have all the high risk zone that was not revealed yet, right? It needs to come out at
Yeah.
some point.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we already see the high risk zone in the skill tree. So it's coming.
Yeah.
Yes. We need Michael to host another Friday event talking about the high risk zone and insurance and all
This
that.
is
That's deep
yeah.
community lore for those who were there.
Yeah. Controversial.
Yes. Neo is actually giving some feedback here, Joseph. He's saying that the Saturator suite overall is wonderful in his opinion, but it just needs to fix some calculations in the component simulators and add infinite perks to some careers. Those are the two suggestions from Neo.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely look at that.
Perfect.
Awesome.
A
Awesome.
3D map also people want.
Soon
Talking about
for
careers, I
26.
come up with another question, Joseph, if I might.
Mhm.
What I realized is, will there still be a limit, or is with the new system of gaining XP and then gaining the points for the different careers and then getting the renown, is that a totally new system, and it's exchanging the old idea of privilege points, and you can maximum spend 145 points? Because I was getting the impression from the simulation that this is going on and on, right? Or is there a limit to the points that you're getting for the different career path?
As far as the cap there, I think that is still being decided.
Okay.
I wish I could give you a more definitive answer on that, but yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Cool. Also, a future-looking question. I don't know if you can really answer this one, but John Carlos is asking: is there a lot of complexity changes planned for season 2, for season 0 after C4, or is C4 what we see right now very close to what we should expect on season 0? We didn't even we didn't release it, and people are already asking about complexity.
There has been talks of additional things that that ultimately have been tabled. I'd say that probably solutions to freighting, right? That has been talks, right? Automated freighting potentially, and also closer space stations for crafting. So those have been talked about, but yeah, not sure. Yeah, those two are what comes to mind.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Nice.
All right. I think we covered a lot. We'll keep some topics. We'll probably do a part 2 sometime. We still missed, I think, probably diving deeper into combat and also council rank and how that impacts everything overall. So we can probably do another brew soon, and we can take a little bit of a deeper dive on that. But Viktor, my friend, I appreciate you taking the time to join us. Always great to get your insights from the AFIA side and all the knowledge that you guys have.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And yeah, glad meeting Joseph and Santi Jose as always. Yeah.
My
Pleasure,
pleasure,
Viktor.
friend.
Yeah, great meeting you as well.
And Joseph, my friend, hopefully we'll get you as a regular guest.
Yeah, for
We'll
sure.
definitely invite you again. So I'll just give you the
Yeah,
live heads up for that.
awesome. No, I love it. Yes, it was really fun. Thank you guys for having me. Looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you joining. It's our pleasure.
Thank you, friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, everyone. See you guys next week.
See you next Wednesday and see you on Friday at the game night as well. We can hop now on some UE5 games if you want. NA server, let's go. But thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.
See you
Bye.
guys.
Bye.